Welcome to our Friday edition of the RDL show, the Ryan D. Leaf Show. Check us out on Twitter at RDL Show and Instagram as well. Subscribe to the Ryan D. Leaf Show on YouTube. Listen via podcast if you want to listen in the car on the Believe Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcast at. So, question of the day. We'll get this out early. Will Aaron Rodgers be a Green Bay Packer in 2021? Heard a lot of news over draft weekend. Now, some more has trickled out over the last few days with some of his closer friends. Adam Schefter even chiming in about why he broke the news and what led to that. So we'll get into that a little bit. But first, wanted to dive into, as always, the mental health space. I was talking pre-show with Sky today, and like any day, any time in our human existence, we may not want or feel like we're in a good mood. I told him, and I've been short with people today, that I didn't want to do the show even, but I mean, you work, right? There's jobs you have to go to work sometimes when you don't want to. I am in a place right now where I'm easily agitated. I feel angry, and I don't necessarily know why. I have a bit of an understanding of what that looks like. But when that happens, when those things happen in your life, because it happens to everybody, happening to me, right now, this week, you have tools in place. You have equity in place, the foundation built of how to deal with these. For me, it revolves around being outdoors. So I got up at 5:30 this morning. I went and worked out with this new trainer I've just started working with. That helped a ton. And when I got home, I, did some readings. I did some meditating. I did some praying. And then I went for a hike. I went for a walk. Ate good food, right? Got a blueberry, banana, almond butter protein smoothie, which was incredibly healthy, and walked 5 miles. And still, I get on the phone with some friends and family, and I am short with them, and those are all choices. Those are all choices we make. I can choose in that moment to not be short. You don't realize you're doing it, and until it's happening. But I'm just so self-aware now that I know, my cohorts here send show ideas. I kind of poo-poo them because I think, it must be the narcissist in me where I'm just like, that doesn't interest me. Why would it introduce anybody else who's watching the show? So again, what does that look like for me then the rest of the day? Well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I'm not just skipping out on my responsibilities. I'm doing the show. We're going to talk about some interesting things, and really, we do this show for the person who's watching, the person who may be going through something similar as I am right now, who needs to hear that it's okay to not be okay, right? And know there's ways to go about it. I went and saw my therapist yesterday, talked about it, talked to my sponsor. Unrest and agitation just is an imbalance in the force. I like to use Star Wars references. I swear to God, George Lucas was framing all that out around mental health and substance abuse. You go back and look at the whole Star Wars legacy. So there's an imbalance in the force. I have family visiting on Monday. That can be contentious at times. Maybe that has something to do with it. Who knows? But it has placed a lot of angst in me. And I think for the longest time, when I felt this way in the past, I either allowed others to shame me, or I viewed myself through the lens of how other people were looking at me. Like, it's okay, you know. It's also important, though, that if you are, you know, if your behavior is old behavior, that you make amends for that, right? Because we're not gonna be perfect every single day. We live this sober life, or we live this, you know, life of recovery, however you want to look at that. I think even if you don't have a substance abuse issue or necessarily a mental health issue, I think we need to all live a life of recovery. One in that we're always trying to evolve and to be a better person every single day, because we're all incredibly flawed. And I think that sometimes, because the past few years have been, you know, exceptional in terms of what my life has looked like, that once again, like throughout history of my life, this pedestal starts to rise and I get placed upon it. And then I see myself not maybe live up to that expectation of what that looks like. And I shame myself, or I allow others to do it because I may not meet the expectations that I have laid out of the person I've, tried to become. And that can knock you down a peg, and that can knock you down a spot. And it certainly has. So my recommendation when you go through this, the idea of self-awareness is know that you may not know what's happening in the moment, right? Because you may just act out and say something that you regret, or treat somebody poorly, and in the moment not realize what it's all about, or why you were triggered, or what that looks like. But there's a self-awareness around when we do know, and we even those that are maybe not as enlightened tend to figure it out by at least day's end. And then it's a matter of, okay, what do you do with that? Do you have the wherewithal to phone that person back up, or go see them and say, I'm sorry for how I behaved today. I hope you can accept my apology. It doesn't matter what that person did to you, or how they responded to you when you were this, that, and the other to them. You can't control that. All you can control is how you behave, how you act. And sometimes we don't live up to that. And when we don't, being self-aware and taking ownership for your part in it is a very freeing thing. It allows you to move forward unencumbered, no matter how anybody else treated you, or how someone, when someone triggers you, they either could be doing it on purpose, or unwittingly are triggering you because of your past trauma or your past experiences and things like that. So they unwittingly could be triggering you, and then your response to them could trigger them. Who knows, right? These are all things that are part of the human existence and the basis of relationships. So I think it's just important. I talk about the Instagram world we live in, and how we only show people, the things we want them to see. This isn't a good day for me. And I'm going to disappoint some people. And I'm going to, probably have to make some apologies. And that's okay. Because, I struggle like everybody else does, in the middle of a pandemic, all those things that exist that didn't before. It is what it is. And so I'm trying to control what I can control. So I'm going to, do a heck of a show here. Bring all of you in who watch the show, who want to be a part of this, and everybody else who's here for the sports. It brings us together to have these open and honest conversations about life. And life isn't great right now. It's It's unfair, but it's how I deal with it that matters. And I've kind of dealt with it like shit today. So I'm going to try to be better in how I deal with it the rest of the way through. And I'll probably have to make some amends at the end of the day when I'm kind of doing my inventory about what my day looked like. So it's not all horseshoes and rainbows here on the RDL show. It's a lot of fun, but we talk about real stuff. So I hope you took something from that opening segment, and now we move forward. And I welcome in my partner, Sky Guasco, to join the show. Jonathan is calling a game at Petco Park today. Pretty cool. We got to see a little bit of that video from him pre-show. Good for him. He's really hustled and worked really hard. Jonathan interned at my company for about a year before the pandemic, and just I've watched him put in a ton of hard work and for what he wants, his dream, and so it's fun to see these types of things happen for him. And Charlie, of course, is driving home for he had finals.
Yep.
Is that the end of the semester? So now he's home for the summer?
I'm hoping so. I hope he did well. I haven't gotten an update yet, but wishing the best for our man Chuck, of course.
Oh, man. All right. Well, good. I'll probably get to see Chuck. I have to head to Chicago here at the end of the month.
Nice.
So I'll probably get a chance to pop in there and see him. So, again, welcome to the RDL show. Sky Guasco and I will be with you for the next 45 minutes or so, talking all things sports. The biggest story that continues to be out there, and our question of the day: will Aaron Rodgers be with the Green Bay Packers this year? Go ahead and go into the comments and answer. We will get to that question and our viewer interaction with you all at the end of the show. All right, Aaron Rodgers dominates from about noon Thursday until noon Thursday last week until where are we at? Noon Friday of this week so far, and I suspect it will continue through the weekend. And I suspect because of the cap relief that the Packers get, if they were to trade him, doesn't come into play until after June 1, then I would suspect this could be like this for the foreseeable future, for at least the next 3.5 weeks. Now, the trade can happen. In principle, it can happen. They can wait till execute it after June 1st. So they could be talking with anybody right now about those types of things in terms of a trade and what that would look like. It just wouldn't go into effect until June 1. So we know how difficult it's been to keep a secret through this whole process, it seemingly seems. Adam Schefter, who is, when it comes to football related, in particular NFL related news, his is the gospel, right? He's got, 4 million followers or something like that. It's crazy, the amount of followers if you're not like some pop star or reality star. Adam Schefter's the closest thing when you can come to sports. He kind of walked it back a little bit. He said he had collected a ton of information during the spring, and he felt like that there was just enough and something could be trending towards a possible trade. I think he was thinking about the 49ers situation or something like that, that he felt obligated to, break the news, break the story. Now, he went on the Dan Patrick show this week, I think yesterday in particular, and tried to downplay it. I don't know if he fully understands that no matter what he says, when he says it, it's going to be a shitstorm, right? He kind of said I didn't know it was going to consume the draft by me talking about how Aaron Rodgers is not happy and doesn't plan on being there. That was, come on. I think it's funny that he, I don't know if it's humility or false humility on his part, but when he speaks, shit happens. That's just, it's E.F. Hutton or whatever the hell that commercial was. I don't know if you're too young to remember that or not. But he talked about that. John Kuhn, James Jones, A.J. Hawk, close friends with Aaron Rodgers, which I assume have received his blessing to go out and speak, because I don't think that they would be close personal friends to Rodgers if they went out and did this on their own.
Yeah.
They just went out and started speaking on their own. Aaron must have given him their blessing to speak to them about, like, hey, right, we didn't leak this. The Packers didn't leak this. There's some problems, yes, but we're going to try to work them out. That's what we do. That's how you go about anything in life. You try to work something out. So I think they've quashed a lot of nerves in terms of people who were saying 5% chance he's in Green Bay. 5% chance he's in Green Bay. But now that may have shifted. Is there a Vegas odds on this at all, Sky? Have you looked?
That's a good question. I'm going to look right now.
I'd be interested to know what the odds are, because if you believe that it was 5% 2 days ago when we were hearing from some beat writers and some other people, and then after the three close friends of Aaron Rodgers speak out a little bit in the last couple days, seemingly shifted the purview of what people think. Again, Aaron Rodgers hasn't said anything. We've heard the Packers talk about how they're not going to, they've spoken publicly a little bit.
I've got the odds here for you if you'd like them.
All right, what are they?
All right, Aaron Rodgers odds. Let's see, Green Bay Packers odds minus 125, 56% chance he returns to Green Bay as of now. Denver Bronco plus 200, 33%. Raiders 16%. New Orleans Saints at 10, and then there's a trickle of about 5 other teams. But basically, Green Bay, Denver, Las Vegas.
So Green Bay is over. It's over 50% now in terms of what Vegas. Vegas, there's a reason why there is a shiny, pretty city in the middle of the desert, people. They know what the hell they're doing, right? Yeah. They know what they're doing when it comes to handicapping, right? And therefore, this line has moved to above 50% that he'll be back with the Green Bay Packers. I am fluctuating with this too, because I initially said this seems like more smoke. This seems something very similar to the Russell Wilson conversation, But from there, we've heard from Russell, who I think just misspoke a little bit around his frustration, and it bled into this huge deal that no one thought was gonna happen. Him getting traded somewhere, as this is like. I think it shocks so many people is because no one anticipated this as a possibility after winning his third MVP and going to his second consecutive NFC championship. That wasn't something that people thought was an option. And so I think it shocked a lot of people, and therefore has. And then we had on my NFL radio show Tuesday night, we had a local Green Bay Packers beat writer who spends a ton of time, right? With a ton of time with the team and how it goes about stuff. And his feeling was around 5%. So I kind of started to matriculate in that direction as well. On our last show on Wednesday, I talked about, it seems like this was headed for a messy divorce, and where are the landing spots? In fact, our question of the day was, where's the landing spot? Mm-hmm. And and then, another day of news stories. When you're not hearing from the man himself, anything can sway it, right? It's hearsay. It's source material. You go with people who you feel like you trust, Adam Schefter, his close personal friends who step up and talk. You'd think beat writers, but clearly they are not in the inner circle of what Aaron Rodgers is feeling and thinking. So I don't know, Sky. I think that I am now, you know what? On Tuesday night, I was this guy. I was this guy Tuesday night. I wasn't swayed by it one way or the other. I said I was 50-50. I said I was right on the fence. I said there's an equally good chance that he'll be back as it will that he'll be gone, until I hear from him and can gauge, really where his mindset is, because this all comes down to him ultimately.
Yep.
The Packers aren't going to trade him. unless he wants to be traded, because they know that they've got a tiger by the tail for, I don't know, he played his best football a year ago. This LaFleur offense has given him the freedom to be able to check out of plays and do things on his own that Mike McCarthy simply didn't, which has made him a better quarterback, I feel. I truly believe his work ethic in the offseason continues to allow him to get better, a la Tom Brady. There's always a fear that the older they get, the richer they get, the less enthused they are about the offseason and working towards another championship. That's just human existence, you know. So I think all of those are there. I don't see why he wouldn't continue. In the best place, I think the best chance for him to win another Super Bowl is in Green Bay.
I agree. And again, Vegas odds 56%, so well in front. Denver at 33, Raiders at 16, Saints at 10. We talked about this last show, and I brought in the Washington football team, and I don't see it actually happening. But when I just piece together what other team plus Aaron Rodgers would be an immediate contender, I go down the list of who needs a quarterback, who could use a quarterback, who has a young and inspiring defense, who has the weapons, who has great coaching, and Washington jumped out to me. Now, nobody's talking about that, but they're actually on this list, but only at 7%. So highly unlikely. But Ryan, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Green Bay is set up. The defense is improving. Nobody wants to play in Lambeau Field in the playoffs, period. And you're starting to have fans come back as well. Last year was different with an empty house, but Lambeau Field is special in general as a home field advantage. And in December, in January, you get the cold and everything else. Rodgers and company thrive in that, and you have some of these dome teams that would have to play them. That's an advantage off the bat there. 49ers made the most sense before the draft, and that's kind of when the Schefter stuff came out in the conversation, but that's seemingly off the table. Denver still makes sense, but they just brought in, Teddy, and they have two quarterbacks now, and the Raiders just doesn't make sense to me. We talked about that last show too. So it's very confusing, but all of a sudden, with Green Bay kind of being the front runner, at least in Vegas, it does make the most sense. The question's going to be, what does Brian Gutekunst have to do to appease Aaron Rodgers, and how can they actually make amends to get back in the building and get this going here so that everybody else can get back to work? And Jordan Love either is preparing to be the guy or not. There are reports also that Green Bay is straight up looking at other free agent quarterbacks. Now that the draft has come and gone, they're looking at other free agent quarterbacks just because they might need somebody to either back up Jordan Love or just step in day one. So it's really a mess.
It's smart business. I mean, you may be out of the quarterback, legend world. You may be into a new regime of what that looks like. So you got to be prepared. I don't know if there's anything that Gutekunst can do to appease him. I mean, Patriots fans love Tom Brady, but they also have to dislike him for two reasons now, right? The one reason, because he left, right? That's the biggest one, because he left. And the other one is because the guy that was going to replace him, who was being groomed for that, he got shipped out of town, right? So if Aaron Rodgers is trying to put that play in motion, similarly, like, hey, just get him out of town, get him out of here for, go get a guy when but that means this team is going to have to deal with a down year, probably, right? They're looking to have some foresight in all this, right? To draft a quarterback like they did with you, Aaron, 3 years premature to you playing. That's what they wanted. I don't know if he's so pissed off that they used a first round pick when they could have went and got a quarterback they felt fit that mold later. I don't know.
That kind of bothers me. And I understand if Aaron's actually mad about that. And this Jake Kumaro thing came out as well, that he believed in Jake Kumaro and they let him go and all these things. But to the Jordan Love pick, I get it. It didn't make sense. A first rounder, they had other needs, all these other things. But that was 2 years ago. And Aaron is clearly still the guy. It's not like they brought him in, had a QB competition, and the front office wanted Jordan Love to take over for Aaron Rodgers. Like, it was just kind of a backup thing, and it was maybe early in the draft and premature. But nonetheless, I feel like, just how Ryan, maybe, as a starting quarterback, if you're in Aaron's shoes and you have the legacy and all these things, are you actually like upset about? I know nobody wants to lose their job, but again, I don't think Jordan Love was brought in or anybody thinks he's going to take over his job. But if Aaron goes down, which he has a couple times in his career, they have to have a reliable second option in that offense because they're a contender in the NFC. Are you actually like personally feeling attacked by something like this? Because I think with Aaron, it feels so personal, and with Brady, he didn't want Jimmy waiting for him because Brady's older and all these other things, which makes sense. But what's different is we saw a little bit of Jimmy Garoppolo when Brady was out occasionally. We had an idea of what he could do with the Patriots. We have no idea what Jordan Love can do in Green Bay.
Yeah, no idea. Our guest on Monday is going to be Tyler Dunn to talk about this situation, this scenario, but also talk to us and fill us in about Jordan Love. Go to his Go Long newsletter and check out his story on Jordan Love. There's a lot of what I would call hyperbole in that, not from him, quotes from other people. That's interesting about how good Jordan Love can be. Mm-hmm. You know what can be good? You know what's really good? Sunfair's really good, everybody. Sunfair is personalized, delivered, healthy meals right to your front door. Today was chicken burrito bowl, which is bomb. Magic mushroom fat bomb. That's what it's called. It's called a magic mushroom fat bomb. Doesn't have mushrooms. Not incredibly bad fat. Maybe like almond butter and coconuts, and it was so good. I had it before my workout this morning. Yam egg hash for breakfast. Oh, so good. And tonight's dinner is filet mignon. That's what you get. That's what you get. And if you go right now to sunfair.com and fill out all your information, click Carl Farrow as your sales representative, and then also the RDL show about where you heard of it, you'll get 10% off your first delivery if you live in the Los Angeles and Phoenix areas. Go to sunfair.com right now and get in the mix. It's all about the food. It has been all about the food for me. I've been doing this since July 3rd. I've committed to it. It's healthy. They're tasty meals too, right? You're not diminishing yourself one way, shape, or form. Sunfair.com, personalized, delivered, healthy meals. All righty. Let's jump into the NFLPA side of things here, right? We watched what's the offensive lineman's name from Denver? Is it
Juwan James?
Is Juwan James, right? The offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
So Juwan James, as most players this offseason, have opted to train or to virtually go through some of the things in the offseason because of the limitations still presented by COVID. And the NFLPA, who supposedly has to back the players, and everybody who watches the show knows that, I don't, there's no love lost between the NFLPA and me and the NFL and me. So this one though falls on our union. It really does, right? Once you made the decision to emphasize and to encourage players to opt out of the strength and conditioning, voluntary strength and conditioning workouts at the facilities to take care of it yourself and be ready like you did a year ago. Once that decision was made and once the NFLPA had backing or trying to encourage that and back it, you had to add an addendum to the collective bargaining agreement. You had to, as a union, to protect your players fully. You had to make an addendum to that collective bargaining agreement where if a player is injured outside of the facility, it is not considered a football-related injury, even though they could be training for the team, doing exactly what the team needs them to do to be in shape for when they get to training camp. But instead, with no addendum in there, James now has a chance to lose about $20 million in salary because of the injury he incurred while training off-site. Now, I don't know if the Denver Broncos will do anything here, if they'll actually withhold, because the guy was working towards trying to help this team out. But there is one caveat to all this. And though teams say they didn't, hold anything against anybody, or he opted out last year for COVID as well. So he didn't play at all last season. And there may be some resentment that exists there because the season went on and the Broncos struggled. And they could have used that type of performance up front. So we'll see what the Broncos ultimately do. They are contractually not obligated to pay him now because of this injury. So there's a lot of ruffled feathers for veterans in this league with the NFLPA, and the fact that they didn't see something like this coming and have an addendum ready when they started to encourage players to stay away from the facility. I hope the Broncos, of course, do the right thing. The legal thing is to withhold the money. We will see how that goes and what that looks like. But this is now, unfortunately, this could coerce a ton of players to go back too early who may not be vaccinated yet to a facility where, COVID could be transmitted. All the things that are fearful and why teams were trying to limit contact. This could have a ripple effect because of this injury by James.
Do you think it would change if this was, and no disrespect to Juwan James at all, but if this is a star player, do you think this changes? I don't want to mention a name because I don't want to jinx anybody, but take a star player and take them off.
Say Drew Brees. Let's say Drew Brees.
Sure, they're in their backyard playing football with their kids, jumping on a trampoline, anything. I mean, we're dads, like whatever.
Well, no. Trampoline's considered.
Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Working out.
They were out training for football, and they had a non-football facility injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a big name, if you had a guy making $35 million who's going to miss the entire season, who knows? But $20 million is a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
And he's a great player. He's a great player in his own right.
And the money alone in this one, if it was a guy making league minimum, because offensive linemen, unless they're left tackles are great offensive linemen, don't make a ton of money in NFL terms. But this guy's got a big contract. A lot of money owed. Mm-hmm. So I think this could be precedent setting in terms of watch what a team does. It's always around like the NCAA when they grant transfer, without telling anybody why. Maybe the Broncos give the money to James and next year some, no-name offensive lineman that, like you just talked about, like that we don't know, something similar happens and the team withholds the money, because they just can. It's kind of what you want to do. And so, again, the NFLPA clearly ignorant, in their due diligence around the collective bargaining agreement. The unfortunate thing that I always say to people who ask why our union is so weak in comparison to the other unions of the professional sports. And I just said the discrepancy in what the high-end player receives in terms of compensation to the low-end player. Let's say the 258th pick in the NFL draft this year, and the collective bargaining agreement is about to run out, and the veterans who are making, especially the quarterbacks, who are making $30-35 million a year, go, hey, kid, the average length of a career is only 2.8 years. I understand that, but we're going to need you to toe the party line here. We're going to need you, and you're only making, what are you making again? $285,000 this year? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to need you to toe the party line here and strike with us and not play until the NFL owners meet our demands. So the young kid who's just starting in the league and is just so grateful for an opportunity to get a chance, he's then faced with, okay, so if I remember this correctly, I don't, I choose not to play, and there's repercussions from the team because my salary isn't worth a shit, and I'm on the verge of making the team anyway. Um, I run the risk of getting them upset, and also giving up one of the years of maybe my shelf life of 2.8 years. And that's why, when we see a vote on a collective bargaining agreement, it's really lopsided. It only passes like 65-35 or even less than that, because there are so many players out there that don't want this. They want universal health care. They know they're going to be former players at some point. All these things like that the veterans who are making that much money can, they can afford not to sit and play a year, because they got $35 million in the bank, right? So that's why it's always been so difficult, and that's why the NFLPA continues to be, run over by the NFL and their owners. And DeMaurice Smith, continues to be the executive director, and yet I don't especially know what he's actually brought to the table since Gene Upshaw's death. I really don't know in terms of care for players. So this is clearly an issue, one that's going to take effect and be a problem, I think, for the foreseeable future in the offseason. But you know what's not a problem? Poppin' Tops. Athletic Brew, non-alcoholic brew device. It is the best. Athleticbrewing.com. Non-athletic or non-alcoholic brews. This one's upside down, everybody. You can go to athleticbrew.com. Okay, there's the link below, and promo code LEAF. You can get 10% off, or RDL show. You can get 10% off your first order of 2 6-packs to your house. It is less filling, tastes so good with zero alcohol for a healthy, wellness related lifestyle. Sky and I drink it constantly. Well, clearly we have about one a day because we always pop one here on the show usually. Go to athleticbrewing.com and order now. All righty. To some sad news. I hate when your ESPN alert goes off on your phone, and it's this type of news, right? Because then I look at it and it says Jake Ellinger, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Sam Ellinger's little brother, who played alongside him at Texas, was found dead, and that was the ESPN, alert. No information has been provided other than it doesn't seem like foul play, and you never want to speculate because you never know what's going on with anybody in terms of health reasons and things like that. But usually when this conversation is started and had, it revolves around the mental health side of things, or substance abuse. Unfortunately, it's been an incredibly difficult year for a lot of people. Just 2 weeks ago, a week ago, he was celebrating with his older brother Sam, who was drafted in the later rounds by the Indianapolis Colts, who was going on to live his professional dream. So it was tough to see. We don't know enough to truly speculate. I think just the idea that, our thoughts and prayers are with the Ellinger family through this. I don't want to really say any more. I want to just have some respect for the fallen young man, and until we know more, not speculate too much. But it's just a sad state of affairs when anybody dies, but in particular when somebody's so young. With every life is precious. I truly believe that, and I will be 45 here next week. And so for the longest time, I didn't think I'd ever see this birthday, particularly where I was in my life. But to see a life lost at 20 years old, just it seems so sad. All righty. There's really no sequitur for that moving forward. But he's in, I guess it's the way to do it. He's in heaven with the angels. And our next topic is about the Los Angeles or Anaheim Angels of the Major League Baseball. Three things. It's local news, of course, for us here in California, really. Your San Francisco Giants, Sky, are leading the NL West with the Dodgers sniping at them, as well as the Padres kind of just sputtering, but are probably one of the better teams in the league. All right, the Angels, and I'm gonna say this is the best I can, right? This is the yearly story for the Angels, right? Mike Trout is tremendous, is balling, but the team is shit or is middle of the road. It's just he's hitting 380, second in MLB, and then Ohtani, who's their pitcher, has 10 home runs, which is tied for first with the AL lead. They've really recently released Albert Pujols, who was just on the last year of his 10-year, $253 million contract. If you remember when he left to take that deal, it feels like a generation ago almost. Yeah. It feels like it was forever ago, and he just finished it. No team has picked him up as of yet. He's contributed a little bit, but again, this team is just, it's Mike Trout and Ohtani as superstars and nothing really else in terms of contributions to where this team, who is 13 and 17 at this point, are vying for anything special as every year seemingly goes for Mike Trout and this Angels team.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating if you're an Angels fan going through this and knowing that you have minimum a top 3 best player in baseball for the last decade, and most would argue the best all-around baseball player for the last decade on your team, and you're hoping for maybe backing into a wild card spot if you get hot at the end of the year. But the Astros have been on fire. Say what you want about the Astros the last couple of years. They've been running the division. The A's are good again. The Mariners are always in the mix. The Rangers are up and down. But the Angels, unfortunately, just can't put it together and seemingly haven't since the late 90s, early 2000s. And I think of baseball, and the big issue is baseball, in my opinion, is the one sport in professional sports, or the main sports that we, highlight in our country, where Mike Trout, again, arguably the best player in the game, cannot take his team to the next level because it's so much more than that. He doesn't pitch. He only hits. If he's lucky, he gets to hit 4 times a night. If he hits 4 home runs, the most he can do is drive in, 10 to 12 runs on grand slams. That's never going to happen. He's a dynamite fielder, but a great quarterback can elevate an entire team. A great soccer player can elevate the team. A great player in the NBA can elevate an entire team and get wins out of that individual player to carry a squad. And you just can't do that in baseball. Incredible. Ken Griffey Jr., for example, arguably the best player when he played. The Mariners had 2 or 3 great seasons. Other than that, it wasn't it, and the Reds never did it either. So it's frustrating if you're an Angels fan, and it's frustrating for me as a baseball fan to see this guy so incredible and just knowing he's not going to do it. And look, I don't know how he feels internally, but everything externally for this guy and why I think people love him no matter what is he is just playing the game. I'm on this team. My contract's for this team. I'm here in Anaheim. I'm playing for the Angels. I'm doing my best. I hope we get some W's. He's not complaining. He never opens up about it. He doesn't want to leave. Teams have tried to buy him basically, and he won't leave. It's a fascinating story with Mike Trout specifically, and hitting 380. I know we're only a month in, but 380 is absolutely absurd. His career average is 306. So he's hitting, 74 points higher than he usually was. That'll fall over the season, but phenomenal. And Shohei Ohtani is just unexplainable. I mean, people compared him to Babe Ruth when he came in. Obviously, that's insane.
How's his pitching? How's his pitching been?
His pitching's good. I mean, he's not an incredible pitcher, but he's a good enough pitcher if he was only a pitcher, he would be 2 or 3 in a starting lineup of any squad. He's a very quality pitcher. But he's also a power hitter. He hits for average. He gets on base. He steals bags. Just an incredible player. I mean, again, tied for first in the major leagues a month in with 10 home runs. And Albert Pujols, I mean, I can't say enough great things about this guy either. I mean, he's had 2 Hall of Fame careers with the Cardinals and the Angels. And it's just a phenomenal person off the field, on the field, everything else. And basically all signs point to the Angels releasing him because he's strictly a DH at this point of his career on the Angels because of other first basemen. And they don't have a DH in the National League. So people are thinking he might go to the White Sox, which is where his former head coach, La Russa, now coaches, who was with him with the Cardinals many years ago. And he might go to the White Sox just to stay in the American League, hit the DH, visit his old coach, but wishing him the best. But just, I mean, 3 absolutely phenomenal athletes on this Angels team, and they're the worst in their division and, frankly, 3rd worst in the entire American League right now.
Same old story every single year, Angels fans, right? Get some pitching or Mike Trout's going to be wasted in a wonderful career.
Sad.
All right, let's move on to the MVP race, okay, in the NBA. We had a pretty spirited discussion the other day around who leads. Jokic, Embiid, Curry, Giannis, Doncic, Harden. I think there's a name there, and this is the top 5 according to the Vegas Insider. But what Chris Paul has done in Phoenix has been unbelievably remarkable. This team was the worst in the league just a few years ago. They had the number 1 draft pick in DeAndre Ayton. And wherever Chris Paul goes, it seemingly doesn't matter. He makes the team a contender. Not only did they make him a contender, I think right now they have the 1 seed if the season were to end today, I believe. And we're getting closer and closer to it. I don't know. I don't think I followed the NBA close enough to actually go in other than with the statistics around Jokic or Curry. But in terms of the most valuable player this year for anybody, I think you'd have to make the argument around Chris Paul and Jokic. I really do think those 2 are right there are the guys that have been most important to their teams.
I'm pulling up the standings right now just to get the update here. And Chris Paul, 2nd place, Jokic in 1st place in the Western Conference. And Ryan, I mean, you say it all the time, right? I mean, you and I were talking pre-show about baseball stuff, and it's like, yeah, the Angels stuff is interesting, and Mike Trout's amazing, and Shohei Ohtani and Albert Pujols' career, but are the Angels actually in contention? No, they're not. And that's what's super frustrating. These guys have been phenomenal. And to your point, Chris Paul's not even on this list. I actually have 6 names up here, but 2 of them are tied as far as Vegas odds. So there's the top 5. But Chris Paul's not even on the list, and he's in 2nd place by 1 game. So it really comes down to, like, if you're talking about the most valuable player, this is kind of the Russell Wilson discussion every year, in my opinion. Is he the best quarterback in the NFL? Maybe not necessarily when you compare him to other guys. Is he maybe a quarterback that accounts for the most wins on a team that wouldn't have them without him? That's where the discussion comes in. And Chris Paul, not single-handedly per se, but has certainly propelled the Phoenix Suns from the dumpster to 2nd place in the division, and they could make a serious playoff run if the rest of these guys can play well. So if you take the MVP as the most valuable player according to wins, you absolutely have to put Chris Paul on this list. But, Curry in the middle of the pack, Giannis up at the top, the Jazz are up at the top, Harden in the middle, with the Nets there. I mean, Damian Lillard's not on the list because the Blazers are average, but he's been a great player too. So it's interesting not to see Chris Paul on this list. I agree with you. And it would be great to get Jonathan and Charlie's input on this before it goes down, because those guys are a little more tuned into basketball than
Well, they're
you and I
also a
are.
little more opinionated about this.
Well, they are, and I think they make good points. But I'm absolutely with you that it is shocking to not see Chris Paul's name on the list. And if any viewers watching have an opinion one way or another on that, I think it would be interesting. And I'm kind of confused why he's on. And maybe it's just because it's been a little bit too late. You know, he's been hot lately, but maybe not all season. Where the rest of these guys have been.
Well, to get to where they're at, he's had to have been their most valuable player. I mean,
yeah.
You know, so we'll see how this plays out over the last few weeks of the NBA season. As for the Lakers, it's Anthony Davis leaves the game last night with back spasms and didn't return. LeBron, was hit or miss, right? If it comes down to a play-in tournament, right, and it's one loss, one game, as we've seen all year, the Lakers clearly can lose one game with no problem. I played with John Arland, the voice of the Lakers, yesterday. I played a little golf with him yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, this is a real threat. We do not know, if and when they're going to play and how they're going to play and what that's going to look like." So it should be because after winning a championship a year ago, to come back this year with a full intact season and how they're going about it, it will be incredibly disappointing. Any year that LeBron doesn't win a title that's left in his career, it's going to be one of those blemishes, one of those disappointing things for the Lakers and LeBron. So what's not disappointing is Bomb Banana, everybody, all right? It is a hot sauce company that was built a year ago by 4 friends at the University of Michigan. Boo, go blue. And launched in the midst of the pandemic with the vision of transforming the way the people eat hot sauce. This Bomb Banana is banana-based, not to be confused with banana-flavored. Hot sauces deliver exceptional and robust chili spice in any and all meals. Their culinary craft recipes are low-calorie, which is beyond perfect for athletes. There are 2 versions, 2 sauces. They're milder original, which is in the light logo, and their spicier Muy Muy, which is in their red logo, as you can see, are designed to elevate your dining and meal experience. Go to seekthespice.com. That's seekthespice.com, all one word, and today you can receive 10% off your first order by using the promo code LEAF, L-E-A-F, like on a tree, at checkout. Bomb banana hot sauce, everybody. Try it. I put it on a lot of my food now because it is low calorie and helps with that healthy alternative. So, again, the question of the day was, will Aaron Rodgers return and be with the Green Bay Packers this season? Let's bring in some of our answers from our faithful viewers.
JP's Aviation. Here. I think that he will, from JP's Aviation. We'll go to Quiet Cat 926. I believe he will ultimately stay with the Packers 2021. Rodgers delivering more weapons. There's a small window to try and win the Super Bowl. It'd be crazy to let him go. Ryan, you mentioned that you don't see the Packers actually letting him go. Thoughts here?
Well, I mean, ultimately they may be forced to. They don't want to. But if Aaron Rodgers says, I'm done here, it's done, it's over, I'm out, there's nothing they can do. They can try to call his bluff and say, fine, we're not letting you go play anywhere else, so you're going to have to retire, and we're going to eat it all. We'll eat it all and play a second-year quarterback that we weren't going to play till year 4, if they're so petty. Or they go, okay, let's make him the asset that he is for us. Let's get 2 number ones and a number 1 from last year and a number 3 and a veteran quarterback through this process, right? That's what they ultimately have to do if that's which way they go. The news this week makes me believe, and as I sat there on Tuesday night talking with the Packers beat writer, I'm at 50-50 until I actually hear from Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to say, hey, sounds like this is something that actually could be true and exists, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to find out. So There we go.
Rob says it looks like a rough breakup ahead. Love probably not quite ready. So it could be an angry year ahead if he stays. Again, this is that like personal contention. Rodgers has come out and basically said, like, it's not Jordan Love, the kid. Like, it has nothing to do with him. It's the situation itself. Do you think Jordan Love, the person, is actually a problem here for Aaron?
No, not at all. I think that, I think they, well, I don't believe that Aaron Rodgers thinks Jordan Love is at all a problem for him. He's
Right.
the reigning MVP of the league. What I think is that it's an inamicable situation because they have to coexist, right? You have to be in the business of winning a championship and adding to that team right now to win a championship, but you also have to be in the business of being ready when you're 16 to 18 year quarterback, which doesn't happen, people. It is a rarity. It is a exception to the rule out there. When he ultimately goes, you want to have somebody in place. You don't want to be treading water for a few years. That can cost a coach or a GM their jobs, right? You want to keep with the upward trend. I know it's going to be difficult, but it's true. So I don't think that it makes for an angry year. I think if Aaron Rodgers shows up to play for the Packers, he'll play exactly like he did last year. And he had contentions. He was contentious with Mike McCarthy, and they won a Super Bowl together, right? So Aaron Rodgers can get it done with anybody, right? His teammates love him. They get in that locker room. They make it about them. They don't make it about anybody else outside of that locker room, ultimately. So I think if he comes back, it's more than fine. Contentious relationships between players and management has always existed, and it always will.
A couple more here for you, Ryan. One more from Carlos Alberto about Aaron Rodgers. And we actually had a couple feedbacks on the Angels. I just want to run by you quickly here. So Carlos Alberto, I don't think he will come back to the Packers and that they'll panic and accept an offer from Denver or Vegas. We talked about this early on. If he doesn't come back, do you think that the Broncos and or the Raiders are the most likely landing spots for him?
I mean, Denver seemingly sounds like it. I mean, I told you what it's going to cost you. It's probably going to cost you 2 number ones and probably a number one from last year. Both those situations we're talking about Alabama wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy or Ruggs out of Oakland or out of Las Vegas. So, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wants that to happen, to go to a place and then the first round draft pick of wide receivers that he's been waiting to get all of a sudden leaves the team already. So he's already pissed off at the new GM. I don't know.
God.
It's just a vicious cycle, everybody, a vicious cycle. Appreciate everybody being with us. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I'm in a much better mood than I was when I started the show. As always, when you talk about something you enjoy or when you get something off your chest, like amazing things happen, right? You have more of a positive attitude. Follow us, the RDL Show on Twitter and Instagram at the RDL Show. Subscribe to the RDL Show, Ryan D. Leaf Show on YouTube. Listen via podcast on Believe Podcast Networks or wherever you consume your podcast material. Because of Sky, Jonathan, and Charlie, who aren't with us today, I'm Ryan Leaf. We'll see you on Monday. Tyler Dunn from the Go Long newsletter is going to join us, talk to us all things Aaron Rodgers and his Jordan Love story that you can go read at Go Long now. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you on Monday.